There was a time when Assassin's Creed games were actually short. You could finish the story, do all the side missions, and still have a life. Fast forward to now, the RPG era slapped our faces with 1,000 plus hours of gameplay. Now each game has a massive map, never-ending side quests, along with long and repetitive grind sessions. So the question is, which Assassin's Creed game is the longest and the shortest? That's exactly what we're gonna discuss today. Starting in release order, we have Assassin's Creed 1, the foundation of the entire series. And honestly, the game still holds up in many different ways. The story was serious and mysterious. Altair's character felt truly mysterious and cold, and for its time, the graphics and atmosphere were impressive. The game had 4 main maps, some big, some small, and the story was split across these locations. There were 7 memory blocks in total, and each one took roughly 3 to 3.5 hours to complete. Now here's the catch. A lot of the missions were repetitive as hell. Same investigations and same tasks over and over again. Like 90% of the story is like this. Altair follows a guy, he beats the shit out of that guy, and then repeats it endlessly. In simple words, my boy's entire life was running errands. Because of that, the main story ends up being around 12 to 15 hours long. But wait. If you're a completionist or a lore lover who wants to finish the game 100%, things get painful real quick. The mechanics are outdated, the movement feels stiff, and the grind, yeah, it kinda sucks. To fully complete the game, you need to collect 420 flags scattered across all the maps, kill around 60 Templar Knights, save citizens and complete other mini activities, and once you do all that, the total playtime jumps to 30 to 31 hours, with some people taking even longer. It's not that bad for the very first Assassin's Creed, but also never make me collect flags again. Because Assassin's Creed 1 was a success, it motivated the devs to build on the foundation they had laid. And that's how we got Assassin's Creed 2. Unlike AC1, which got some backlash for having repetitive activities, AC2 added layers on top of everything. It didn't just repeat the formula, it improved it greatly. The main story was again divided into sequences, but this time the missions felt more unique and interactive. There were 14 sequences in total, with sequences 12 and 13 originally being DLCs that were later added to the base game. Just like AC1, the game featured multiple cities, but now they were more expanded and detailed. Each city had its own story arc and was unlocked gradually as you progressed through the game, which made the world feel more alive. Focusing purely on the main story, the game takes around 15 to 18 hours to complete on average. But again, if you're the type who wants to see everything, including side missions, activities, viewpoints, and oh yeah, the feathers. Yeah, those were a pain in the ass. Still, if you go for full completion, the total playtime jumps to 35 to 40 hours and sometimes even more. And for a sequel back then, that was a lot of content. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is a direct sequel to AC2 in every possible way. Same engine, same Ezio, same momentum, but sharper. It introduced some genuinely cool features like assassin recruits and the ability to replay missions, which was a big deal back then. At the same time, the devs also cut out a lot of things, but that was clearly done for quality over quantity. Unlike the previous Assassin's Creed games, Brotherhood had a much more refined and centered story. It was laser focused on one main objective: overthrow the Borgias and liberate Rome. Along the way there were side missions and activities, but they felt more reserved and tightly packed instead of being spread all over the place. If we talk strictly about the main story, the game had 9 sequences, along with some interactive modern day sections, and even though there were fewer sequences, each memory plus the modern day missions helped balance things out. Because of that, the main story ends up being around 12 to 15 hours long, depending on your playstyle and speed. It's easier than before, but definitely more time consuming. If you decide to max out all assassin recruits, complete main missions with 100% synchronization, and collect everything that the game has to offer, and also decide to suffer through the absolute abomination that is Leonardo's war machines, then the total playtime jumps to around 40 to 45 hours, which puts it right next to AC2. They implemented quality over quantity, and it definitely worked. Damn, I can't ignore the fact how good Ubisoft was back then. They used to create absolute gems. Revelations was the final chapter of the OG formula. It concludes Ezio's story and is honestly underrated in many ways. Oh, and here's a fun fact for you. Revelations wasn't meant to be a mainline game at all. It actually started as a smaller spin-off planned for Nintendo 3DS. but Ubisoft liked the idea so much that they turned it into a full-on Assassin's Creed game. In terms of gameplay, Revelations didn't introduce anything groundbreaking, aside from a few new mechanics and a fresh location. The map was singular just like Brotherhood, and the story followed the same template. You again had 9 sequences, modern-day sections, or Animus Island as some people call them, along with a few of Desmond's memories. The story wasn't appreciated as much at the time, but it was decent at best. This wasn't a revenge story, it was more of a spiritual journey for Ezio, about closure rather than retribution. Now, the game may feel longer because of the Altair memories and the constant switching between past and present, but in reality, it's not. The main story still takes around 12 to 15 hours to complete, and for the side content, once again similar to Brotherhood. If you do everything, including activities, collectibles, DLCs, and extra missions, the total playtime lands around 35 to 40 hours. It was a quiet but a meaningful ending to Ezio's story. AC3 was a breath of fresh air for the series. It introduced a completely new protagonist named Connor Kenway and a mix of new mechanics, new satisfying combat animations, and a huge open world built around the American Revolution. One of the biggest changes was how the game world was structured. Instead of a couple cities, AC3 gave us 4 massive regions: New York, Boston, the Frontier, and Homestead, each with its own feel and purpose in the story. These areas were no joke, they were actually huge, which added to the playtime. The game also introduced hunting, weather effects, new parkour options, and for the first time in the series, naval gameplay with Connor's ship, the Aquila, though the ship is used more in specific missions than constantly roaming. The main story itself is longer than most earlier games. If you focus purely on narrative, then you're looking at around 20 to 30 hours playtime depending on pace and how deeply you explore. That's because sequences include long missions, and the first few sequences were unusually long as they were used to build up Connor's and Hayden's individual storylines. Now, let's just say you are unemployed enough to complete the entire game. Then my guy, you have to go through a lot, including finishing all side missions, hunting, homestead tasks, collectibles, naval missions, and every extra objective. And if you have the courage to do all of that, the game can easily stretch to 50 to 60 plus hours. That jump comes because AC3 drops you into a giant world with tons to do, and almost every region has its own activities beyond the main quests. Honestly, this game did a lot to evolve the franchise. Even if not every fan loved every part of it, but there's no denying it expanded the scale of Assassin's Creed like nothing before. Black Flag was an interesting case. It took everything from AC3 and built on it, but this time with a massive twist. Naval exploration and combat became the star of the show. Much of the story literally takes place at sea, and sailing through the Caribbean never felt this satisfying before. It actually saved the series after AC3 got a bit of backlash, and also balanced the pacing better than its predecessor, making the game feel bigger but less exhausting. The map is one of the largest in the series as it covers the entire Caribbean Sea. Now, not every island is accessible at first, but even with just the main locations, it feels huge and alive. This was one of the first steps towards the larger-than-life open worlds that Assassin's Creed is now known for. Story and characters were engaging, but the game stuck to a familiar 12-sequence structure. The difference? Missions were shorter and easier to complete. Although most of them were tailing missions, which was easily one of the weakest parts of the game, but hey, we'll save that rant for another video. So if you focus strictly on the main story, expect about 23 to 25 hours, which is shorter than AC3 but still solid. Now for the completionists. If you want to do everything the game has to offer, including exploring every island, completing every side mission, crafting, purchasing every upgrade, hunting, and collecting every collectible, then your total playtime can easily hit 60 to 65 hours depending on your pacing. Personally, I found AC Black Flag side content much more engaging than previous titles. Some fans refer to this game as Black Flag's DLC, or even a literal clone. And who can blame them? The game is about 90% identical to Black Flag, with some returning locations from AC3, like New York and parts of the Atlantic Ocean making a comeback. Surprisingly though, the side activities take more time than the main story. The story itself follows the same template as Black Flag but is much shorter. There are 6 main chapters or sequences and an epilogue, which the game shows in small fragmented pieces. This makes the story around 8 to 11 hours, and if you speedrun, you can probably finish it in about 6.5 hours. But if you dive into the side content, which is almost identical to Black Flag, just with the Templar side this time, then your playtime stretches to about 35 to 40 hours. Basically, it was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but you're a Templar now. Unity is widely considered by many fans as the most misunderstood AC game, and honestly, it still holds up in many ways. The game tried to go back to the Brotherhood formula with one big main map and a few smaller locations here and there, focusing on details and activities so players could just enjoy exploring. With that being said, Unity also started the bloating trend in the series. Don't overthink it, we'll get to that later. The story and writing aren't my personal favorite, but if we talk about length, it's familiar territory. Unity had 12 sequences, which take roughly around 17 to 20 hours to complete for the main story. Now here's where it gets tricky for the completionists. Some activities are painful, like missions. You have to finish them once and then have to replay just to complete side objectives. And you literally cannot complete them on your first go like the other games. That's seriously messed up. Still, if you're ambitious and want everything, which by the way includes co-op missions, main story replays, collectibles, viewpoints, then your total playtime can easily reach 70 to 85 hours. Unity wasn't perfect, but it pushed the scale and co-op gameplay further than any prior AC game. Syndicate felt similar to Unity in terms of gameplay mechanics and the overall look, but it was a downgraded and more structured version. Unlike Unity, where you sometimes had no idea what to do, Syndicate kept things clear and organized. It had one main map, which was London. It had fewer collectibles and a more focused path for players to follow. The game was also the first ever in the series to introduce two protagonists, Jacob and Evie Fry, which meant the story had more missions per sequence with unique gameplay for each character. On top of that, there were missions featuring their descendant, Lydia Fry, plus the DLC, Jack the Ripper, all without any modern-day sections. So, if you focus strictly on main missions, ignoring all the side content, the story takes about 15 to 20 hours. But if you aim to complete everything, like side activities, collectibles, and DLCs included, your total playtime can reach around 55 to 60 hours. Syndicate managed to be structured, enjoyable, and approachable, all without the chaos that Unity sometimes threw at players. Origins is the game that revolutionized the series. Just like Black Flag, it introduced completely new systems, fresh mechanics, and a bigger focus on combat, while stealth took a bit of a backseat. The map? It was absolutely massive. Unlike older games where you explored a few cities or regions, this time you almost had the entire country of Egypt at your fingertips. You literally had full freedom to explore whatever you want. And yeah, more freedom means more hours of playtime. Origins also ditched the traditional sequence system and replaced it with just the main quest, stepping fully into RPG territory. Even just the main story alone was longer than most of the older games, taking about 30 to 35 hours to complete. But if you go for everything, like DLCs, side quests, all optional activities, locations, and collectibles, then you're easily looking at 85 to 110 plus hours of playtime. Origins didn't just expand the world, it redefined what an Assassin's Creed game could be. AC Odyssey is the game that changed the franchise's impression forever. It was praised by many and hated by some, all because of its controversial shift from traditional AC elements. Odyssey did a lot of things differently, so much so that it earned Game of the Year nominations in the year 2018. It gave us a massive and nearly complete map of ancient Greece, introduced new mechanics, and put more focus on the first civilization lore, and also became the first AC game to have more than 2 DLCs, adding tons of extra content. The rest of the systems were similar to Origins, but even more RPG focused, like choices, dialogue, and level scaling became central to the experience. Because of that, if you focus strictly on the main story missions, ignoring side content, you're looking at around 45 to 50 hours. And if you include the DLCs, free quests, and all side activities, then your total playtime can easily reach 140 to 200 plus hours. Besides a couple of repetitive side quests, most of the side content in Odyssey was actually fun. Sure, it's time consuming, but personally, I found it super satisfying to explore, level up, and see all the little details scattered across ancient Greece. Believe me when I say this, the music alone is enough to prevent you from getting bored while exploring and doing side activities. Here comes another AC game that a lot of fans love to hate. Even though it balanced a lot of things, the hate still persists. But fun fact, it sold more than any AC game ever. And because of that, you can imagine the amount of post-launch support it got from the developers. Valhalla was the first AC game to receive continuous post-launch content for 2 straight years, including a separate standalone DLC. In short, the game is massive. The base game has literal 5 to 6 maps, both big and small, each with its own regions, activities, and story arcs. The DLC maps follow the same pattern, expanding the world even further. Even though it's a great Viking game, it still feels like a proper Assassin's Creed experience, especially as it expands the lore a lot. If you focus just on the main story arcs, the game's normal length is around 80 plus hours. But if you go for everything, including all side content and DLC included, then you're looking at a whooping 250 to 400 plus hours. And that too depends on how thorough you are. The game is massive for sure, but if you're a completionist and love Assassin's Creed, then you will have no problem 100%ing it whatsoever. After the backlash, AC Mirage was the game that promised to bring AC back to its original roots, focusing on tight stealth, parkour, and a more classic Assassin's Creed experience instead of massive RPG systems. You can already expect this game to be much shorter, but how short exactly? Let's find out. Mirage is just one map with limited regions and a fairly congested story featuring only a few characters. The main story was just but everything else? It was actually really good. The open world was great with fun activities like contracts, Tales of Baghdad, and general exploration. If you focus solely on the main story, the game takes around 15 to 17 hours. And because it practically uses Valhalla's framework, a lot of side content is required to level up and progress the story. So for those who want to do everything, including all side activities and the recent DLC, the total runtime stretches to around 20 to 25 hours, and with the DLC included, it can reach about 30 hours. The most recent addition to the franchise, Assassin's Creed Shadows, features a more technical map and refined mechanics. But despite all that, the game is smaller in scale than Valhalla. The story is a bit all over the place, with some parts even hidden behind side quests, which made the experience uneven. Like Valhalla and Mirage, Shadow uses an arc system where one chapter is limited to a single region, with a few exceptions scattered throughout the game. Side content is limited but time-consuming. There are multiple mini-quests, from killing targets to collecting gear and even clearing out castles. These missions are fun on their own, but they add up. So if you focus on the main story plus some side content, the runtime is about 45 to 50 hours. But if you go all in with everything, it stretches to 60 to 100 hours. Add the Claws of Awaji DLC and the crossover events, and you're looking at 115 to 120 hours easily. So Shadows may be smaller in scale, but it still packs plenty of content for fans who love exploration and a challenge. And with that being said, the video comes to an end. Let us know in the comment section which Assassin's Creed game gave you the hardest time to complete. The answer we're expecting is Valhalla, but let us know for certain. And if you liked our video, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and also subscribe for more interesting Assassin's Creed content on a regular basis. We'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care and goodbye.